climate action, has it fallen off the global agenda? Communication, how we talk about it, it's so important, and I think we must admit we have been underperforming a little bit as far as communications is concerned. We have not been that effective, so we try to explore the roles of journalism, of finance, and the economy in this panel and create a positive narrative. Laura Kunzberg, I'd like to start with you, just 2 sentences to introduce you. An award-winning journalist with the BBC, the host of the BBC's flagship weekend news show. You are an observer of national and international trends and developments. Has climate fallen off the agenda?
Hi, thanks so much for asking us to be here. Not sure about following those two, so we will do our best. It's faded because of bigger political changes. It hasn't disappeared, but it's definitely faded. And I think many people in the UK and in other parts of Europe and around the world just go, you know what, there's so many things that are difficult for me right now. When someone comes into my life and says, you must do this or you must do that, and it might cost you more, they think, not right now.
So what's the consequence? What do we do?
Well, I suppose I think there are 2 big long-term issues, and there's one very direct current issue. Long-term, as we heard the governor saying, people who care about the environment haven't always been great about talking it in real-life terms. It's a long-term issue. How does it affect me right now? Secondly, if you take, for example, one of the things they've been trying to do in the UK is get people to put heat pumps in their back garden. They cost £10,000. So it's seen as a luxury for many people. The other thing, I think some of the narratives around, if you see the big COP summits or the kinds of things that NGOs and charities talk about, they talk in very doom-laden, scary terms. And actually, if you're sitting at home around your kitchen table, that might seem frightening, and it also might just seem too big for you to do anything about it. So I think talking about practical solutions, but small things that feel relevant right now, has got to be a better way for politicians to communicate.
Steve Wesley, let's talk about 2 Americans here. Let's talk about America. You're the founder and CEO of the Wesley Group. It's one of the biggest venture funds in North America. You served on the board of Tesla for 3 years together with Elon Musk, but you also have some political experience. You were controller and chief fiscal officer of the state of California when Arnold was governor in California. Let's talk about the new US administration. It canceled the Paris Agreement, fossil fuels are great, etc., etc. Where does the US stand now in terms of environmental policy?
Look, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and I've come to you with a simple message. Get over it. The whole world is moving forward on this. There are 195 countries in the world that have signed on to the Paris protocols. Only 4 are not part of that. Iran, Yemen, Libya, and sadly the United States. But I want you to know, countries all over the United States don't care. We are moving forward. Here's a statistic for all of you to know. Of all new energy that utilities put online last year to power the United States, 90% was renewable. Folks, there are no Marxist utility CEOs in our country. They're putting renewable power in because it is cheaper, it is cleaner, it is more reliable, and you can get it online faster. 10,000 companies have made commitments to get to carbon net neutral. Make no mistake, the US may slow down a little bit, but we will lead the world in green. We are creating the companies that make a massive difference. A lot of people say to me, Steve, no one makes any money in green energy. Our venture firm, we've had 9 IPOs, including Tesla Motors. When I first invested in this thing, electric vehicles, people thought of golf carts. My wife said, you invested in what? Electric, go get our money back. Well, we invested at $2.76 a share. Today, over $250 a share, but it split 32 times. That was a 1,000x returner.
Are you saying drinks is on you tonight?
Yeah. Drinks are on me tonight. I'll be in Berlin, though. So the point is, you can not only do good for the world, but this is one of the fastest growing economic sectors on the planet. Don't be a whiner, be a participant, and it's good investment on top.
Alex Michelson, you're an anchor with Fox 11 News in California, probably the best-known anchor in California, award-winning journalist again, 8 Emmys. And let me point out for the Austrian audience, Fox News is not necessarily what we mostly hear about or see about Fox News, the editorializing evening shows. It's not. It's also straight news, and that's what you do. Now let's talk about California. It's recently become the 4th largest economy in the world. California is going along a different path from the federal government. Can California keep this path of environmental conscious action?
Yes, I mean, I think California is going forward, and I've spent time traveling with Governor Newsom, and we went to China, and when he was there, his message was, presidents will come and go, but California is committed in a bipartisan way to the issue of the environment. He quotes Republican governors, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, but also Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, who both were Californians, who were very focused on the issue of the environment. Richard Nixon created the EPA. Ronald Reagan created a lot of our environmental regulations. And so, California is trying to lead. There is a battle going on, though, right now. California wants to have a law in place in 2035 where there can be no more sale of gas-powered vehicles. And the Senate, the Republican Senate, just worked to try to vote that down. And there's a big battle that's going to happen probably in the Supreme Court over who gets to control that. Whether, as Governor Schwarzenegger said, it really should be the states that get to control this sort of thing, or whether it's going to be the federal government. And so we're seeing a bit of a deja vu of what happened when he was in charge with President Bush in leadership. We have a different Supreme Court now, so that may change things. But broader though, to the point that Tony Blair made, as much as California wants to act on its own, if there are issues that are national issues, there are issues that are world issues, and so there does need to be a bit of coordination.
Let's get a final round and question to all of you. This coming fall, we will celebrate, if you want, the 10-year anniversary of the Paris Agreement. Does any one of you, and just like a yes and no, does any one of you think we will reach the targets?
No.
Well, there was research out yesterday said that we might breach the target even earlier than people thought in the New Scientist, so it doesn't look that way.
I think we will. Let me give all of you one ray of hope. China, last year, which a lot of people talk about as the world's largest polluter, put online more solar and wind than the rest of the world combined last year, times 2. It was announced just a week ago that China, for the first time since COVID, is actually reducing its carbon waste, exhaust, 1% a year. I think this number may go down. They got the message on wind, they got the message on solar, they got the message on batteries. Now they're leading the world on EVs. The rest of us need to follow.
You think we might not reach it, but how can we protect the people from the consequences if we don't?
Well, I just want to kind of expand upon what Governor Schwarzenegger was talking about in terms of thinking about this issue in a bit of a different way. I think part of the challenge when you think about people, especially from my generation, is there's such a trust deficit in terms of what leaders have told them. So if you're somebody that's my age, think about our lifetime. We were told there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. There wasn't. We were told that the subprime mortgages would be fine. They weren't. We were told that you take this vaccine and it'll protect you from COVID, you won't be able to give it to anybody else. That wasn't really true. Americans were told, Joe Biden's not that old, don't worry about that. Immigration's not an issue, inflation's not an issue. And time again, people were told stuff, and then they realized maybe that's not true. So this idea that people can just be quote unquote lectured by a bunch of experts on climate issues may not work because a lot of people, there's a trust deficit. So the way that you build trust is by letting people see with their own eyes and come to that own conclusion. Part of the challenge on some of the climate issues is when you're talking about the air and you can't see it, it's hard for people to grasp it. But for TV and for social media, having something that people can grasp, can see, can understand is really important. So seeing the concrete changes, literally the concrete they'll be talking about later, seeing gas prices go down, seeing things on how it impacts people's everyday lives, seeing water literally be clean cleaner, that can make a difference. And so when we talk about these things, I think we need to think about visual representations for people so they can see how their life is changing, and then they get behind it. Simply the concept of trust me doesn't really work right now, but together, if we're creative, we can find a way to show people so that they start believing it themselves.
Very, very short final question to you, Laura. Rebuilding trust, how can we do that as journalists?
Well, I think it's show and tell. So whether as journalists, that's for us to show people how the sausage is made, right? Doesn't always look that pretty, but being transparent about what we know and how we know it. I think there's a challenge where we're trying to do that very overtly at the BBC. Actually, we have a whole new thing called BBC Verify, where we are showing people how we find out the things we know. We're showing our workings.
Transparency.
Because trust in journalists matters as well, right? Trust in politicians has been so stretched and broken in the last few decades in the time that I've been doing this kind of job. And that has also been matched and sometimes deliberately undermined by some politicians, that trust in the MSM or whatever you want to call it. So transparency, showing your workings, and show and tell for us and the political leaders.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
The Governor and Tony Blair have taken up so much time today. Thank you.